Hello there, this is Rom Wills coming back at you with yet another video. Men managing multiple women. And I have to give a shout out to one of my commenters, Ishmael Green, for suggesting this topic. And, the actual topic was when men have multiple women who know each other. Look, let's be real. Because to many women, the term polygamy or sometimes open relationships, polyamory, is a dirty word. To some women. Others are cool with it. We in the community now, we have several men. I mean, it's not in the millions, but I say a sizable amount of men. A good percentage. Because it's hard to really know exactly what's what. Who have multiple women. Now, I know some women will say, or even some men will say, well, yeah, that's because they cheating on their poor wife or girlfriend or something like that. No. A lot of times the women know about each other, especially in polygamous situations, because despite polygamy being illegal in this country, it still happens. Basically what you have is a dude might have an official wife that, he's married through the state, but then count a few other women as his wives. You'll see this especially in alternative spiritual communities in the black community. I mean, it is what it is, and people are cool with it. They good with it. It just means legally, if something happens to the man, only the official wife has access to whatever's left. But even in those cases, it's like, it's still he's carrying himself as husband and wife and wife and wife. And it happens a lot. It's a thing of management because, you know what? In cultures that actually practice polygamy, it's not always the man that controls it. It is in some cultures, but in other cultures, sometimes a woman will bring in another woman. She might like the woman's not married or anything, or, sometimes it might be an older couple. The woman doesn't have the same sexual attraction to the husband, so she's like, okay, let me get somebody to take care of stuff. And, and there's also, some people, they recognize the, economic benefits of having, one man and several wives. I mean, it's a lot to it. And in the cultures that are more formal about it, it's not just a man that's just having a sex fest. I mean, he has responsibilities to each of those wives, especially in Muslim cultures. He has to be able to take care of them equally. I mean, it is what it is. And of course, we definitely have it in some Mormon communities now, even, reality shows that present this. But it's a matter of managing those women, and some guys, they just can do it. Now, usually in those cases, women are seeing the bigger advantage of it. Because sometimes you might have a case, especially if they can manage to share the same household. You have a case where, one woman might be more the person who can go out, get some money, help bring it into the family and stuff, right? And then another one who might be good with more the domestic chores or something like that. It's not just a sex thing. Let's just be clear on that. Let's be clear. Usually when you see those situations, it is as much economic as it is sexual. In fact, to be honest, and I've seen some men who've actually engaged in those practices say, hey, you know what? Get that herb game up. I mean, and it's cool because they realize they still have to satisfy each of the women sexually. But it's different things. And like I said, the women surprisingly are happy in it. Now, not all of them, because you have some women who get in those situations and for whatever reason, they don't like it. But it's usually in those cases, in the cases I've seen, it's usually just, maybe some people stop getting along. It's not that they're not open to it. And you've even had some people actually promote it because, we, especially in the black community, there's a reality that many women are sharing men anyway. Sometimes, and knowingly. But sometimes you got one, you got, when you had that mistress, that side chick, she knows she's sharing a man. She knows it, and she's good with it for whatever reason, especially when there's a perception that there's a shortage of good men. So if you have a guy and, he's sexually appealing, has some economic end, some women deal with that. In fact, back in the day, you had men who would have second families. Usually people find out at the funeral. I've heard too many stories, and plus had that with my own family, Hey, I had that in my own family. I just got to put it out there. Like, found out in later years, my grandfather had a whole second family. I'm meeting some cousins for the first time. Probably got cousins out there I don't know about. Both my grandfathers were Rolling Stones. Because you had situations where, a man would get a second family for whatever reason, or, some men will travel the globe. They have one family in the States, have a second family someplace else. Now that I don't really condone that, because it's dishonest. But you had plenty of situations. We won't talk about that. We had plenty of situations where the women know each other and they cooperating. They just, I guess they pragmatic. Women would have to answer that. Now, I know there's plenty of women that will say, no, I never go for it. I'll never do all that. But, everybody doesn't have it. Understand polygamy, or a man with multiple relationships, concurrent relationships, that's accepted in most of the world. That is accepted. It's not a big deal. They like, hey, this is how we going to do it. And, for the women who want to talk about balance, there's still polyandry in places like Tibet, where you have a woman and, she's sharing like 5 brothers or something. Have a kid, she don't even know who the father is, but you know what? They all raise that child equally. The most you have, some brothers say, hey, the other brother is leaving his shoes outside the door a little too long. That was like a signal or something. It was like, nah, he's spending too much time up in there. But, it's, what, some people are just pragmatic, right? And some women are pragmatic. They know it's a good man. They know, he's going to handle his responsibilities. They'll bring another woman in or something, or they realize there's more of a benefit, all the way around for it. And sometimes they cool with each other. And like I said, I've known plenty of these guys. You'd be surprised how many guys are doing stuff like this, and the women cool with each other. And the women, and they bring different things to the man, and his job, he gotta be responsible. That's the one thing with it. If a man engages in it, he can't. It's not just a player thing where some women just sharing a dick and a man got to go and do 1,000 things, or he just go off and do his thing, be trifling. He has to be responsible for all of them, and that's the key to it. He got to be responsible. Like sometimes they in the same household, sometimes they might be in separate households. He got to give it to them all equally, and it is what it is. And when they legalize gay marriage, really they should consider polygamy. I guarantee they would have more order in society, because then that side piece, she can be brought into the family, and she could she don't have to be outside of everything or left high and dry or anything. Because here's the thing with the men who engage in it, you can never really call them players or irresponsible or something. They just have the ability to spread out. Now, I don't personally endorse it. Like, even doing this video, I'm just commenting on something. I'm just stating what's there and my observations of it. Some people who are actually in those relationships, they can give a better observation, because I haven't been in a polygamous relationship. So, they can say, hey, you know what, this is what happens. These are the pitfalls. These are the advantages. These are the disadvantages, things like that. Like I said, it's not an endorsement, but it is. It is, well, not an endorsement, but rather it is something that exists out there. And sometimes people have to, when we look at all these relationship forms, like, you got people engaged in polyamory, multiple relationships and stuff, and open relationships. Many people are just pragmatic out there. Many people, many women, especially women, I've always said, despite what many men think, many women are very pragmatic about stuff. Now, that don't mean every woman is accepting of it, but that's her choice. Or even every man's accepting of it, that's his choice. But it's still out there. And, basically for a man to do that, for him ultimately to manage multiple women, regardless of, whether they do it in the context of a spiritual system or whether they do it, just because. The main thing with the man to actually do that, one, he has to be economically viable, right? To manage. He can't be some broke dude doing that. Because one of the things is he's going to have to, he definitely becomes a provider then. Even if all the women are working. He definitely becomes a provider then. And, unless he's a pimp or something. And, that can be a factor there. But also, too, he does have to take his herbs because, part of what a husband does and is responsible for is keeping his wife sexually satisfied. And so if you're dealing with multiple women, and ironically, I actually took a seminar in this, making love to multiple women. It was like, nah, you gotta be able to get that shit up and just go, boom, 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 back and forth between the women, So it's like the man gotta be strong-minded because he's dealing with different emotions. Because the women might get along with each other, but they still different people. So it's a bunch of stuff. But one of the things is the man does have to be strong. Now, I want to say one final thing because I know there's some people who would be against all of that and say they shouldn't do it. Look, we got to be open to different relationship styles, whether we agree with them or not. Because that's what's happening in the world today. We got to be open for it. And personally, I think anything that promotes stability is a good thing. So, I just want to put that out there. My thoughts on it. Like I said, I'm not an expert. I haven't been in a polygamous relationship. Juggled multiple women before, but that wasn't a polygamous thing. Right? It was just Rom on his player thing. Right? So, something to think about, something to consider. I would welcome the comments of any men or women who are involved in polygamous relationships. Whether you agree, like, as long as your argument is good and strong, for or against it, that's all. I welcome that. If it's against it, as long as there's no personal attacks against me for even bringing it up, which I can't stand, I want to see the comments, because I think it needs to be a conversation. It does need to be a conversation in the community because, quite frankly, if you got gay marriage legal and you got some, and I'm going to say it like this, sick people trying to legalize pedophilia, which, well, I ain't going to say what happens if that happens because, well, some bodies might need to be laid out. But if we can have a discussion about all this, a marriage form that's respected by most of the world needs to be discussed too. So anyway, or relationship style, I'll say it like that because, of course somebody could say, well, I'm not going to formally marry them, but I'll take care of all of them and they can know each other. So anyway, Ray, that's it for today. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.